Hello and welcome to Step Through History. This is a story all about Athelstan's gift. It's about sanctuary and it's about Minsters. And, for good measure, there's a few miracles sprinkled in there as well. If you enjoy it, please subscribe, please like, and leave a comment. I love speaking to you all. Okay, on with the story. The year is 924, and Edward the Elder, king of the West Saxons, is dead. Athelstan, his son, gained the kingdom of Mercia, and a very short time later, the kingdom of Wessex, after his half-brother Ælfweard died just a few weeks after his father. The circumstances around these quick changes are debatable, but all that matters for this story is Wessex and Mercia were under the rule of one person. Athelstan clearly had his eyes on the kingdom of Jorvik. He would at first at least try to find a diplomatic way through this problem. He married his sister to Sitric, known as the Squinty, to form an alliance. Some sources state that this was a non-aggression pact, with a promise to help each other out in time of war. Other sources believe an agreement was reached, in which upon the death of Sitric, the kingdom of Jorvik would transfer to Athelstan. Whatever was agreed, shortly after the marriage in 927, Sitric died, and Athelstan moved quickly to claim the throne of Jorvik. This act wouldn't go unchallenged. Relatives of Sitric, based in Ireland, would raise an army to win back what they saw as their rightful inheritance. One of the claimants, named Godfred, was at the court of Constantine II, King of Scotland. No doubt asking the Scots for military support against the advancing and ever more powerful unified Anglo-Saxon kingdom. I doubt persuasion would have been too difficult. All rulers at this time would be keenly and nervously watching Athelstan's moves. There was a benefit in it for Constantine, too. A restored independent kingdom of Jorvik would provide a buffer zone between his kingdom and that of Athelstan's. Athelstan demanded that Constantine handed over the fugitive Godfred. Constantine refused, and when his diplomatic efforts began to fail, Athelstan resorted to his military might, marching on Scotland to punish their king. On his march north near Lincoln, he came across a company of pilgrims, singing and rejoicing. Athelstan inquired as to where they had been and why they are so elated. The pilgrims stated that they had come from Beverley, where by the merits and intercession of the glorious confessor, John, the blind, lame and deaf and other infirm persons were restored to health. Athelstan's army moved northwestwards to York, whilst Athelstan himself took a detour across the Humber to visit the sepulchre of the confessor, John. When there, he prostrated himself before the relics and devoutly prayed for his protection and assistance. Drawing his knife from its scabbard, he placed it on the high altar of the Church of St. John and pledged that if he succeeds and returns alive to claim it, he shall honour the church and increase its possessions. The churchman suggested that Athelstan take a token to show that he visited the sacred spot. When he arrived in York to link back up with his army, the banner of St. John was proudly on display. It wouldn't be the last time the banner was waved at the head of an army marching to war. From York they marched north, making camp by a river crossing on the Scottish borders the night before they were due to confront their enemy. Whilst alone in his tent that evening, a certain form, clothed in a pontifical habit, stood before him. The figure desired the king to prepare his army to pass the river in the morning in face of their opponents. Athelstan asked as to who this figure was. The figure replied with the name John. "Pass then fearlessly with your army, for you shall conquer. For this purpose I have come to speak with you." The message was relayed to the troops, spurring the army of the Angles and the Saxons on to ravage the land up to Aberdeen, whilst the fleet caused mayhem and destruction right up to Caithness. Upon returning from a successful campaign against Constantine, Athelstan once more visited Beverley and the Church of St. John. He had his knife to claim and a promise to keep. Athelstan established a college of secular canons and endowed it generously with land and privileges. One of the privileges was the creation of a sanctuary, which extended for 2 miles around the tomb of St. John. The limits of sanctuary were marked out by a ring of 4 stones, placed at Leconfield Park, North Burton, Kinwell Graves, and one location is unknown to us, but it's believed to be south of Beverley, near what was the Humber ferry crossing. The privilege of sanctuary was permitted to the perpetrator of any small offence for 30 nights if they have fled to the church. This gave the accused time to prepare a defence or admit their guilt. The idea behind this, I believe, was to stop citizens from rashly putting the accused to death through personal vindictiveness, but instead brought to justice through an impartial trial according to the law of the land. To strengthen the rule of law, anyone violating the sanctuary by inflicting bonds, wounds or blows to the refugee was compelled to pay a heavy price to the officiating minister of the church. Within the sanctuary church there was, and in Beverley still is, a frith stool with an inscription stating, "This stone chair is called Freed Stool, or Chair of Peace, to which what criminal soever flies hath full protection." The individual claiming sanctuary would sit on the frith stool and with one hand on the Bible swear an oath.
"Sir, take heed on your oath. Ye shall be true and faithful to my Lord Archbishop of York, Lord of this town. Also ye shall bear good heart to the bailey and the governors of this town. Also ye shall bear no pointed weapon, dagger, knife, nay, none other weapon against the king's peace. Also ye shall be ready at all your power, if there be any debate or strife or sudden case of fire within the town, to help seize it. Also ye shall be ready at the obite of King Athelstan at the warning of the bellman of the town, and do your duty in ringing."
After the oath, they will be required to kiss the book. And I'd like to thank the wonderful voice of Alfred One-Take Williams there. That was marvellous. Athelstan's gift helped rejuvenate the area around Beverley in the East Riding of Yorkshire. This new college of secular canons had new buildings with evidence of glaziers' workshops and lead works using industrial hearths used to create buildings out of stone and not wood. By 1050, the Archbishop added a high stone tower and levelled the ditches and other possibly defensive structures for new construction projects. The investment and development of the area at the start of the 11th century would have only been possible through peace and stability. Minsters are quite common in the Diocese of York, but what is a minster exactly? The word minster is derived from monasterium and housed monks, priests and nuns living a communal life. The minster would act as a sort of mother parish to the smaller religious establishments in the area. One of the most defining features of a minster was in its management. During the earlier Northumbrian Golden Age of the 7th century, Northumbria built its religious base and culture with the help of Irish monks of Iona, and not of those under the Church of Rome. Unlike the continental model, which would see a single figurehead, a bishop or archbishop, running the show, a minster was based on a Celtic model, in which the establishment was managed by 7 canons or culdees. Unlike the bishops of the continental model, the culdees had no separate authority, land or income to the church. To see the advantages of this Celtic model, we need to look no further than the tyrannical Bishop of Durham. But I'm getting ahead of myself. He will come to the story later on. Beverley is first recorded as a minster in Edward the Confessor's Charter of 1061-65, which speaks of Sancta Johannes Minster and Minster life. Anyway, let's get back to Athelstan, first king of all England. Asterisk. But don't let his flashy self-declared titles like Rex Totius Britannia or King of all Britons blindside you. In the year 939, we have 127 years to go before the Battle of Hastings, and England is in for a rough ride. But for now, we have seen how Athelstan granted special rights to land he had no claim on in order to bring Northumbria into the West Saxon fold. In 127 years' time, Duke William of Normandy would use Athelstan's gift to claim overlordship of those rebellious northerners. But to find out about that, you'd have to go and watch my William the Conqueror and the Harrying of the North story. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you've enjoyed this one too. If you have, please like, please subscribe, and please share, and I will be back with more stories. So thank you very much. Until next time.